In the previous part, Cassandra Vance, broken but unbowed, faces betrayal and public scrutiny. With Jasmine Croft back, truth goes viral and the fight for her empire becomes a fight for love. To see part 1, the link is in the description. And before we dive into part 2, hit the subscribe button and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Cassandra reached up and touched her face. I'm rethinking. But even as they chuckled softly, the knock at the door shattered the calm. Sloane stood on the other side holding a packet. No reason, just a name written on the front in quick script. Jasmine Croft. Cassandra took it and scowled. It's not mine. No. Sloane said it was left at the front. No sender listed. Inside the packet was one page. Jasmine unfolded it slowly. Her eyes scanned line by line and her expression shifted. Pale tightened. What is it? Cassandra asked. Jasmine said nothing. Just passed her the sheet. It was a note, handwritten. No name. No danger. But every word was drenched in spite. It mentioned Paris 6 years back. Particulars no one else should know. And it finished with a caution. She'll ruin you again exactly like she did then. And this time you won't heal. Cassandra gazed at it. Blood going icy. Who the hell? Someone who wishes to divide us, Jasmine said. And they're fighting foul. Do you know the script? No. Do you believe it's one of the board? I believe it's someone who understands what occurred between us better than they ought. You mean someone from the inside? From earlier? Cassandra looked at her, tone low. We hid that long ago. Not deeply enough. Silence stretched between them. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that meant something was approaching. What do we do? Cassandra asked. Jasmine folded the letter slowly. We speak the truth. Not only to them, to one another, about Paris, about what truly split us. Cassandra's heart clenched. Are you certain you're prepared? Jasmine looked at her, gaze direct and firm. I was always prepared. You're the one who fled. Cassandra agreed slowly. Then perhaps it's time I cease. Paris had always been a town of dreams. The light made all appear kinder. The buildings murmured vows. Even the agony wore scent. But when Cassandra landed at Charles de Gaulle with Jasmine beside her, and the letter still smoldering in her bag, none of it felt dreamy. It felt like revisiting the site of a sin. They didn't talk much during the trip. Both of them had decided, if they were to learn who mailed the letter, they had to go back to where it all began. Cassandra had made the plans quietly. No media, no staff, no interruptions. Just the two of them following the path of a tale neither of them had ever completed. Sharing. Their car drove them through roads that hadn't shifted in 6 years. Past shops Cassandra recalled from silent dawns and cafes that had once been the scene of hushed fights. It was eerie, lovely, perilous. We mustn't be here, Cassandra muttered, as the hotel appeared. Their hotel, the one where everything had fractured. We must be, Jasmine said evenly. You said you were prepared to cease fleeing, so cease. Cassandra tightened her jaw, but said nothing. The room looked precisely the same. Same wall-to-wall panes, same vast piano, same thick drapes and dazzling lights. It was like entering a recollection preserved in time, except now they were older, keener, cracked in new places. Jasmine stepped across the room and opened the fridge, taking 2 small vodkas. We'll require this, she said, throwing one to Cassandra. Cassandra caught it, didn't open it. Who do you believe sent it? Jasmine leaned on the window. I have 3 ideas. All of them foul. One of them Beatrice. The aide? Cassandra frowned. She adored you. She believed she did until the night I departed. She witnessed all more than I knew. Cassandra looked down. She wasn't the cause you left. No, Jasmine said quietly. You were. Cassandra agreed once slowly. Then let's discuss it. You first. Cassandra moved toward the piano. She didn't sit, just placed her hand on the cover. The same one she'd shut that night 6 years ago with too much anger and too little care. You charged me of adoring power more than I adored you, and you were correct. Jasmine said nothing, just heard. But I didn't reject you because I didn't adore you. Cassandra went on. I rejected you because you made me feel too deeply. Because for the first time, I wasn't the cleverest person in the space. I wasn't the one with the advantage. You equaled me, and that terrified you. It ruined me. Cassandra turned, her voice breaking. I believed if I maintained my space, I could keep my sharpness, my place, my control. I didn't realize that you were the one thing anchoring me. And when you left, all collapsed. Jasmine stepped to her slow, certain. That night, I nearly didn't depart. Why did you? Because I overheard you on the call with your dad. Cassandra froze. You were eavesdropping. No. You had the terrace door unclosed. Cassandra shut her eyes. That discussion one she hid. You said I was a diversion. That I made you fragile. That you'd manage me soon. I didn't mean it like that. Did you mean it at all? I was trying to convince him I was still in control. Cassandra said, ashamed. He'd been questioning my judgment, threatening to cut ties if I didn't refocus, and I panicked. I said what he needed to hear, but not what I needed to hear. Cassandra opened her eyes. No, you never told me you loved me. I didn't think the words would fix it. They wouldn't have, but they would have mattered. Cassandra looked at her, eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry. Jasmine nodded, swallowing hard. I know. For a moment, the silence wasn't heavy. It was healing. They stood close. Close enough to remember. Close enough to ache. What about you? Cassandra asked. Why didn't you fight harder? Jasmine hesitated. Because I didn't know if I was fighting for us or against you anymore. You'd become someone I couldn't recognize. I didn't leave to hurt you. I left to protect the version of me that still believed in love. Cassandra stepped forward. Do you still believe? Jasmine didn't answer with words. She reached out, gently cupping Cassandra's cheek. Cassandra leaned in, eyes closing, breath hitching. But before their lips met, a soft knock sounded at the door. They froze. Then Jasmine moved first. She opened it to reveal a familiar figure. Beatrice, older, sharper, her expression unreadable. I thought you might come back here, she said, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. Cassandra stood straighter. Was it you? Beatrice turned to Jasmine. You shouldn't have left like that. You disappeared. No explanations. And she, her eyes cut to Cassandra, pretended like you never existed. Do you have any idea what that did to the people who believed in you both? You sent the letter, Cassandra said. It wasn't a question. I wanted you to remember, Beatrice said coldly. I wanted her to remember what happens when you get too close to fire. Jasmine stepped between them. You crossed a line. You crossed it first. Beatrice snapped. The two of you destroyed something bigger than just a relationship. You were icons. You were a vision. And instead of rising together, you imploded. And the world watched. I watched. So you threatened us. Cassandra's voice was sharp. Now you tried to sabotage my company. No, Beatrice said. But I wanted to remind you of what you abandoned, of the people you forgot when you walked away. Jasmine's voice cut like steel. You don't get to rewrite the story. You don't get to weaponize our past. Then write a better ending, Beatrice said. Or repeat the same mistakes. And then she left. Just like that. Silence returned. But this time it didn't suffocate. Cassandra turned to Jasmine. You okay? I will be. You know she's right about one thing. Which part? We were a vision, and we let fear ruin it. Jasmine nodded slowly. Then let's not let fear write the rest. They left Paris the next morning. No fanfare, no headlines, just the two of them sharing quiet glances on the plane, fingers brushing occasionally. It wasn't fixed. It wasn't easy, but it was honest, and sometimes that was the first step to forever. Back in New York, The city didn't pause to welcome them. It never did. It moved on as if Cassandra and Jasmine hadn't just returned from digging their hands into the grave of a past that nearly ruined them. The skyline blinked. The traffic screamed. The stock market ticked. But something had shifted. Cassandra could feel it in the way she moved through her office now. Slower, more present. She didn't flinch when employees looked her in the eye. She didn't dodge Jasmine's hand when it brushed hers in the hallway. She didn't apologize for being softer than she used to be or stronger. Jasmine returned to her roles seamlessly, but the air around her was different, too. Less guarded, less combative, more intimate. The board had quieted. Investors stabilized. And yet, for Cassandra, the real threat had always been inside her. And that was what she was facing now. Quietly, ruthlessly, every time she chose not to run. That morning, she sat on the terrace of her penthouse in a robe, hair undone, drinking coffee she'd actually made herself. Jasmine sat across from her, barefoot, legs tucked under her, reading the paper with one hand while holding a blueberry with the other, which she occasionally tossed into Cassandra's mouth, with a lazy flick of amusement. "You're distracting me," Cassandra muttered after missing one. "You used to love distractions. I used to think love was the distraction." Jasmine looked up. "And now I think it's the only thing that ever made me pay attention." Jasmine set the paper down. "We're different." "You mean we're growing? Is that what this is?" "It feels like it." A pause, then gently. "You're scared of what?" "That this won't last." Cassandra sipped her coffee. "That this is a window, and it'll close and I'll still be here with everything. But without you." Jasmine stood, crossed the small space between them, and sat on the armrest of Cassandra's chair. "I'm not going anywhere. You did once, and I regretted it every second. Don't make me say it again." "Say what?" Jasmine leaned down her lips at Cassandra's ear. "That I love you, present tense, not as a memory, not as a cautionary tale, as a choice. Every day." Cassandra closed her eyes. The words didn't terrify her anymore, not the way they once had, but they cracked something tender inside her, a door that had been bolted shut for years. She turned her face and kissed Jasmine's wrist softly. "Then stay all the way in. Don't just orbit me. Come crash into me." Jasmine smiled. Finally, that night, they didn't just sleep together. They slept together. No barriers, no secrets. Cassandra didn't flinch when Jasmine traced the scars along her lower back. Jasmine didn't hesitate when Cassandra whispered the nightmares she still had about wheels that wouldn't turn, elevators that wouldn't open, voices telling her she was finished. "You're not finished," Jasmine whispered. "You're just getting interesting." Cassandra laughed quietly. "You always did like broken things." "No," Jasmine said, kissing her collarbone. "I like powerful things that remember what it's like to be fragile." "You, Cassandra Cass Vance, are a masterpiece of contradiction." For the next few days, they were inseparable. Work home, long walks, through the city with Jasmine pushing the chair like it was an extension of her own body. When Cassandra got tired, it wasn't pity, it was partnership. They didn't post about each other, didn't make announcements. They just were until the gala. It was the event of the year, an annual benefit hosted by Donovan Industries. And this one more than any other mattered because it was the company's way of signaling that the scandal was over, that Cassandra was not only in charge, but stronger than ever. It was also the first time they would appear together publicly since the fallout, since everything as a couple, or something dangerously close to one. Cassandra's gown was midnight blue, open in the back, the scars beneath her shoulder blades peeking like a secret she no longer tried to hide. Her hair was up, her gaze lethal. Jasmine wore red, bold, classic. And when they entered the ballroom together, Cassandra's hand on Jasmine's arm, Jasmine's other hand resting gently on the back of Cassandra's chair. Every head turned. The cameras clicked. The whispers began. Cassandra leaned in and said, "They're going to talk." Jasmine smiled. "Let them." The night was a blur of speeches, toasts, tight smiles. But Cassandra's focus never drifted far from Jasmine. Every time she looked across the room, Jasmine was watching her. Not like a trophy, not like a lover, like an equal, like someone who had seen every version of her and stayed. And then the final speech arrived. Cassandra took the stage alone. She didn't look at her notes. She didn't rehearse. She simply stared out into the crowd and said, "You've seen me fall. You've seen me bleed. Now you'll see me rise. Not because I have something to prove, but because I finally know who I am when the walls are gone." Applause, a standing ovation. But none of it mattered until she rolled off stage and Jasmine was waiting at the bottom of the steps. "You made it look easy," Jasmine said softly. "It wasn't. I know. But I did it." "You did?" Cassandra stared at her. The noise of the ballroom faded. "What if this is it? The moment everything shifts." Jasmine leaned down, her lips a breath from hers. "Then hold on to it." And Cassandra did. She kissed her in front of everyone. No shame, no hesitation, no press strategy. Just a billionaire who couldn't walk. And the woman who gave her a reason to want to stand again. Later that night, in the back of the town car, Cassandra rested her head on Jasmine's shoulder and whispered, "You were right." About what? It was never about walking. No. It was about choosing to move even when everything told me to stay frozen. And you made me want to move again. Jasmine kissed the top of her head. "And I'll keep doing it until you run toward me instead of away from yourself." Cassandra smiled against her neck. "I already am." And for the first time, it felt true. All of it. The morning after the gala felt different. The city still moved at its breakneck pace. But something inside Cassandra had finally stilled. Not in a stagnant way. More like a storm that had spent years twisting at full force and had now decided at last to rest. Her name was trending for all the right reasons. Not as a scandal. Not as a symbol of pity or speculation. But as a woman who had stood in front of the world, exposed and still held her crown. Headlines didn't call her cold anymore. They called her commanding. Survivors sent her letters. Journalists praised her authenticity. And the photos. Oh, the photos. Her midnight gown. Jasmine's red dress. Their kiss. The ballroom frozen in shock. As to women defied every unspoken rule and rewrote the story in real time. And yet, the real moment hadn't happened on stage. It had happened after. At home, when the makeup was off. The heels were gone and Cassandra stood barefoot in her bathroom, staring into the mirror. She didn't recognize herself. Not in a bad way, in a new way. In a way that scared her and thrilled her. Jasmine appeared behind her, silently, wrapping her arms around her waist. "You look like you just met yourself for the first time." "Maybe I did," Cassandra murmured. "Do you like her?" Jasmine asked, resting her chin on Cassandra's shoulder. "I think I could learn, too." "Good, because I've loved her this whole time." Cassandra turned slowly, pulling Jasmine closer. "Stay with me today. No work, no meetings, no scripts. You mean a day off. I mean a day on with you, with me, with whatever this is." Jasmine smiled. "God, I love this version of you. The unpolished one." "Careful," Cassandra said, eyes gleaming. "You might start to like her too much." "I already do." They spent the day in the kind of silence most people dream of. No tension, no pressure. Just laughter, casual kisses, ordering too much food, sitting in Cassandra's massive kitchen in robes with no shame. They watched an old French film on the projector. Jasmine fell asleep against her shoulder. And for once, Cassandra didn't feel the need to plan the next move. It was the closest thing to peace she had felt in years. But peace is fragile, especially when you've spent your whole life building empires from battlefields. The next morning, Jasmine received a call from Paris. An offer, a major one. Global branding for a humanitarian campaign backed by the UN. 3 countries, 6 months, complete. Creative control. The kind of opportunity people kill for. Cassandra overheard her taking the call in the kitchen. Her voice was steady, professional, distant. The way it used to be before they found each other again. Cassandra didn't say anything at first. She waited. Hours passed. Jasmine finally walked into the office where Cassandra sat reviewing press reports. "I got an offer," she said. Cassandra didn't look up. "I heard it's temporary. Just 6 months. You should take it." Jasmine's brows pulled. "That's not what I expected you to say. You didn't ask me what I wanted to say. Then say it." Cassandra finally looked up. Her voice was calm, but her eyes, God, her eyes were breaking. "I don't want you to go." "Then say that I just did." Jasmine sat down across from her, reaching for her hand. "I wasn't going to accept it without talking to you first. You don't need my permission. No, but I need your truth." Cassandra closed her eyes. "You gave up everything once to love me. I don't want to be the reason you lose something again. And if staying means I gain us, then maybe I don't know how to ask you to choose me." "You don't have to ask," Jasmine said gently. "You just have to want it out loud." "I do," Cassandra whispered. "I want this. I want you." Jasmine nodded slowly. "Then I'll stay. You'll regret it. I'll only regret walking away a second time. You're choosing me over your career. I'm choosing us. There's a difference." Cassandra stood restless. What happens when this stops feeling new? When the press gets bored? When I start to fall apart again? Then I'll hold you until you come back to yourself. You make it sound so easy. It's not, but it's worth it. Cassandra's shoulders dropped. "I don't know how to be loved without giving something up in return." Jasmine stood too. "Then stop trading love like it's currency. This isn't a negotiation, Cassandra. It's a surrender, and I'm right here, ready to fall with you." Cassandra stepped forward, chest against Jasmine's, forehead resting against hers. "You're everything I never thought I deserved. And you're everything I've never stopped wanting." Their kiss was slow, not urgent, not desperate, just deep, real, rounded. But later that night, when Jasmine lay asleep beside her, Cassandra stared at the ceiling, her mind no longer still. What Jasmine didn't know was that Cassandra had received a call, too, from her doctor. A new therapy, experimental, aggressive, painful, risky, a small chance. Tiny that it could trigger neural response in areas previously considered dormant. It wasn't a cure, not even close, but it was movement, a chance, a question. One Cassandra didn't know how to answer. Not yet. She hadn't told Jasmine, not because she didn't trust her, but because she didn't know what it would mean to want something so badly again. She looked at her sleeping lover, the way her lashes fluttered in dreams, the way her breath caught slightly when Cassandra brushed her shoulder. She had everything, everything she thought was lost. But that small dangerous spark was back now, the one that whispered, what if? What if she could stand again? Not just metaphorically. What if she could walk across a room toward Jasmine into something new? The thought terrified her because wanting had always been the beginning of pain. But this time it might be the beginning of hope. Cassandra didn't tell Jasmine the next morning or the one after that. She woke early, earlier than usual, her body stiff, mind sharper than it had been in weeks. Jasmine always slept late when they were alone, tangled in the sheets like her body. Trusted the stillness Cassandra had learned to resent. She watched her sometimes memorizing the curve of her neck, the rise and fall of her breath, the way she reached out in her sleep, instinctively searching for Cassandra's hand. Cassandra would give it to her quietly like a secret, but the one thing she hadn't given her yet was the truth. The email from her doctor sat unopened on her phone. She already knew what it said. They'd gone over the protocol in the call. The therapy was brutal, high risk, physically and emotionally draining. No guarantees. A few patients had shown small signs of progress, minor nerve response, slight muscle twitching, momentary feeling in areas long thought numb. Most, though, experienced nothing but pain and exhaustion. It wasn't a miracle. It was a gamble. And Cassandra had never gambled with herself. Not until now. It wasn't the idea of failure that scared her. It was the idea of hope. Because if she tried and failed, she'd have to admit she wanted it. She'd have to face just how badly she still longed to stand on her own 2 feet, to walk across a room, to hold Jasmine from a different angle, to reclaim something that had been stolen and locked behind 3 years of survival. But if she succeeded, if she moved again, what would that change? Who would she be then? The idea made her dizzy. So instead, she said nothing for now. Days passed. The company stabilized. The board backed off. The public warmed. Cassandra's name was no longer attached to pity, but power. And beside her, Jasmine glowed, working, loving, teasing, supporting. She never pressed Cassandra about Paris again. She didn't ask about the silent moments or the way Cassandra sometimes stared at her as if memorizing her for the last time. Until one afternoon, Jasmine returned to the penthouse early and found Cassandra in the private gym. Not training, just sitting alone in front of a wall-length mirror. Her chair positioned in a way that she could see her whole body but not move it. She didn't hear Jasmine enter. She was too focused on her legs, on the stillness, on the silence. "What are you doing?" Jasmine asks awfully. Cassandra didn't turn, trying to imagine it. Imagine what? What it would feel like to stand just once. Jasmine walked over slowly and crouched beside her. "Talk to me." Cassandra didn't speak right away. Her fingers curled slightly on the armrests. "There's a therapy my doctor called. It's experimental, intensive, high failure rate." Jasmine didn't interrupt. Some patients showed signs of response. Not much, but some. It could mean nothing or it could mean something. She finally turned to look at her. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to make you hope for something I might not be able to give." Jasmine's eyes didn't waver. "This isn't something you have to give me, Cassandra. This is about you. Do you want it?" Cassandra's throat tightened. "I don't know. Yes, you do." Cassandra looked down. "I'm scared. Of trying, of wanting." Jasmine reached for her hand. "Then let's want it together." Cassandra shook her head slowly. "You've already given up enough for me. Stop saying that like love is a tax. It feels like one. Sometimes. That's because you're still afraid to receive it without bleeding first." Cassandra met her gaze, something breaking open behind her eyes. "I want to try, then you will. What if I fail? Then you fail. And we pick up the pieces together, and you'll still be the strongest person I've ever loved." You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. It's just true. They didn't speak again for a while. Cassandra let herself be held, her forehead pressed against Jasmine's shoulder, the warmth of another body grounding her like a lighthouse in the dark. That night, she confirmed the treatment. It would start the following week, twice a day. 5 days a week for 8 weeks. Painful muscle stimulation, neural recalibration, isolation from her usual routine. Privacy was crucial. She cleared her calendar, canceled travel, suspended external engagements. Jasmine offered to stay with her through it. Cassandra refused. At first, "I need to do this alone." But Jasmine had only kissed her hand and said, "I'll be in the next room." That's not alone. The first session was worse than she imagined. The pain wasn't sharp. It was deep, low, like something ancient was waking up inside her nerves just to scream again. Her body didn't move, not even a flicker. But she clenched her teeth and endured it. Jasmine waited in the hallway, pacing. When Cassandra finally emerged, pale and drenched in sweat, she collapsed into her arms without a word. "It didn't work," she whispered. "It's day 1, Jasmine said. "We're not keeping score yet." The second week brought a tremor. Her left leg barely visible, but it was there. A flicker, a breath of motion, and Cassandra broke down, not in agony, in awe. I felt it, she gasped. I felt it. Jasmine kissed her, like she was holding the sunrise in her mouth. Then we keep going. The weeks passed. Each session carved a deeper hole into Cassandra's strength, but also into her belief that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of the story she thought she'd been handed. One night during week 5, Cassandra woke up at 3 a.m., her legs still unmoving, her body exhausted, her heart pounding. She crawled out of bed with her arms, dragging herself toward the bathroom, determined. She didn't want Jasmine to wake. She didn't want to be watched. At the doorway, she reached for the wall, tried to pull herself upright. Her arms trembled. Her spine screamed. But she moved. Only an inch, only a moment. But she rose. Not fully, not with grace. But she felt the pressure in her legs, the weight, the memory of standing. And then she fell hard, loud. Jasmine was there. In seconds, barefoot and wide-eyed. Cassandra, don't pick me up. Cassandra rasped. I need to feel the floor. Jasmine dropped beside her. You're bleeding. It's nothing. You stood. Cassandra looked up at her, stunned. Did I? You did. I didn't think I could. Jasmine's hand found hers. You didn't have to, but you did anyway. Cassandra started to cry. Not from pain, from the overwhelming, unbearable truth that she was still here, that she was still fighting, that she was healing. And Jasmine held her on the floor, kissing her shoulder, whispering promises she would keep. Even if Cassandra never walked again, because it was never about her legs. It was always about her heart. And that finally was waking up. Cassandra hadn't expected the silence. Not after everything. Not after the fall, the blood, the trembling weight of her body attempting to remember something I had forgotten how to do. But the next morning, the apartment was quiet. Not cold, not empty, just still. As if the world was holding its breath for her. Jasmine had left a note on the kitchen counter. Not a goodbye, just a simple sentence in her neat handwriting. You stood. I saw you. I'm so proud of you. There was breakfast on the stove, covered, still warm. The coffee was fresh, and Cassandra sat in the middle of it all, feeling like someone had broken into her life and replaced it with something gentler, something far more dangerous. She could still feel the echo of the night before, the burn in her arms, the bite of the marble floor against her skin, the jolt of her legs. Remembering they were still part of her. It was barely a second, not enough to call progress, but it had changed something fundamental, not just in her body, in her will. She spent the day in a kind of haze, canceling meetings, letting her team manage things she once would have micromanaged to death. For the first time, she allowed the world to move without her steering it. She needed to think, to feel, to want. That night, Jasmine returned home with takeout in one hand and exhaustion in her eyes. Cassandra wheeled to the door before she could knock. Jasmine blinked, surprised, then smiled. You look like someone who didn't sleep. I didn't. Too much pain, too much hope. Jasmine stepped inside, setting the bags down. Hope hurts more than anything, but it's better than numb. Cassandra looked at her for a long moment, then gestured to the couch. Sit with me. Jasmine did, and they stayed like that side by side, the food untouched. The silence wasn't awkward. It was necessary, a breath before the next leap. I think I want to finish the treatment, Cassandra finally said. I want to go all the way. Jasmine turned to her, eyes shining. You don't owe me that. I'm not doing it for you or for them or the headlines. I'm doing it because for the first time in years, I can. Jasmine reached for her hand. Then I'll be here for every step, even if those steps aren't on your feet. I love you, Cassandra said, not whispered, not buried beneath sarcasm or pride. Just 3 words, bare and real. Jasmine exhaled, laughing. softly like she'd been waiting an entire lifetime to hear them in that tone. Say it again. I love you once more. Cassandra leaned in, their foreheads touching. I love you. They kissed deep and slow like a promise, not of a future, but of a present that was no longer running. The final weeks of therapy were brutal. The sessions pushed her beyond what she thought her body could endure. She cried, she screamed, she broke. And Jasmine was there for all of it, holding water bottles, massaging trembling hands, sleeping in chairs beside her recovery bed, never flinching, never pitying, always there. One afternoon, after a session that left her limp and pale, Cassandra looked at the physical therapist and whispered, "Tell me the truth. Will it ever come back?" The therapist crouched beside her and said simply, "I don't know. But it's not about coming back. It's about going forward." Jasmine wheeled her back to the penthouse that day in silence. But when they entered, Cassandra stopped her by the elevator and said, "Don't take me inside yet." "Why?" "I want to try something." Jasmine stepped back as Cassandra locked her arms on the rail lining the hallway wall. Her therapist had taught her this position. She hadn't done it alone before. Jasmine said nothing. She just stood there watching, waiting, loving. Cassandra pulled. Her arms shook, her shoulders burned, but her body rose unsteady, not graceful, but hers. She stood for full seconds. Her legs didn't buckle. Her breath caught, and Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth as tears spilled without permission. Cassandra looked over. "Are you crying?" "No," Jasmine said. "Crying? You're seeing things." "Maybe I am," Cassandra said, breathless. "But they're beautiful." Jasmine rushed to her, not to study her, but to kiss her, to share the miracle, the private revolution, the truth. Later that night, Jasmine lay curled beside her in bed, tracing the edge of a scar with her fingertip. "What happens now?" "I finished the therapy." And then Cassandra smiled against her shoulder. "Then I live with me, with you, always with you." But even in the safety of those arms, Cassandra felt the pressure mounting again. Not the old kind, the brittle weight of expectation. This was something newer, more urgent, because as much as she wanted to pretend the world would leave them in peace now, she knew better. When people saw a woman rebuild herself, they celebrated. When they saw her thrive, they wanted to own her, control her, monetize her. The calls had already started. News outlets, book deals, biopics, endorsements, interviews. They all wanted a piece of the woman who stood. Cassandra didn't want to be a brand. She wanted to be a person to keep this love, this peace, this self for herself. But she also knew what power was and how to wield it. So she began drafting a plan quietly, patiently. The reinvention wouldn't be about walking. It would be about choosing her narrative, her boundaries, her voice. She'd give the world just enough to satisfy its hunger, and not 1 inch more. Jasmine noticed the shift one evening, watching her type on her tablet with military precision. "You're building something again." "I never stopped. Will you let me in this time?" Cassandra reached out and pulled Jasmine into her lap, holding her close. "You're already at the center of it." And that night, as the city slept beneath them, Cassandra dreamed for the first time in years, not of pain or failure or falling. She dreamed of dancing, a slow, impossible dance, her hand on Jasmine's waist, her feet moving, her body alive. And the music wasn't from the outside world. It was coming from within her, from a heart that had finally remembered how to want without fear. It began with a letter, not an email, not a PR proposal, or a demand wrapped in false flattery. A letter handwritten delivered to her private office, addressed in careful ink to Miss Cassandra Vance. The return address wasn't corporate. It was from a rehabilitation center in Berlin. The letter itself was short, polite, but it said everything Cassandra didn't want to hear. The woman who designed the original algorithm for her company's accessibility division. The one Cassandra had pushed out years ago when profit demanded streamlining. had seen her video, the one where Cassandra stood. Not metaphorically, literally. The letter didn't blame her. It didn't ask for anything.